Today I'm looking at this device. This is the Honor Magic 8 Pro and it's Honor's flagship phone for 2026. On paper, this phone has everything. It has the latest Snapdragon processor. It has a 200 megapixel telephoto camera, one of the brightest displays ever tested, and a massive battery. As always, I buy every device I review with my own money. No freebies, no sponsored units. I use them as my daily driver for several weeks minimum before giving you my honest, what I'd like to think is a normal user's opinion of the device. This is the global version from Spectronic Australia. It has 1 terabyte of storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and this particular version, it's called the black version, although it's more of a dark grey. It costs 1,600 Australian dollars out of my pocket. And on paper, this is the perfect smartphone, but there's a catch. It's smaller and lighter than its predecessor. It's 161.5 millimeters tall, 75 millimeters wide, and just 8.4 millimeters thick. It weighs 219 grams. It has a frosted glass back with what they call nano crystal shield. It has an aluminium frame and it has a nice premium feel in the hand. I like the slightly curved edges around and the corners. It makes it very comfortable to hold in the hand for a long period of time. And at 219 grams, it's certainly not too heavy. The cameras on the back is a circular camera bump, but they have it, what they shape around it, they call the Jade Kong shape. It's a little bit top heavy, but not unmanageable. It's fine. It comes in 3 different colors. We have the black version here. It comes in a sky cyan color and a sunrise gold color. The phone is IP68, IP69 and IP69K rated. It has an SGS 5-star drop resistance from 1.5 meters. New to the phone this year, it has a dedicated AI button on the frame on the side here, and that can be programmed to do different things. The screen itself is a 6.71-inch LTPO OLED display. It measures 1256 by 2808 pixels. That gives it 459 ppi. Honor claims 6000 nits peak brightness. Phone Arena have done tests across the display and they measured nearly 4000 nits at 20% APL, which is average picture layout. It means that at least 20% across the display is at least 4000 nits in brightness. They said it's the brightest phone they've ever tested. It has a 1 to 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate. For those who are bothered by eye strain, it has a 4320 Hz PWM dimming display and AI defocus display technology. It also has a circadian night display. All of that means excellent color accuracy and white balance. Phone Arena could not fault this panel. They said it's one of the best displays they've ever tested. Inside, we have the very latest Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor built on their 3nm process. This phone I've got here is the global version. As I've said, it has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Geekbench have tested it, and in single core testing, it scored between 3,654 to 3,705, and it was only beaten by Apple's A19 Pro. Multi-core, 10,600. Currently top of the Android world, although I believe the new Samsung Galaxy Ultra S26, the new one I think, may be slightly faster because it has a slightly modified version of the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, but it'll only be a little bit faster, and compared to other phones this is really fast. GPU is class leading. There can be some thermal throttling under sustained load, but that's common across all the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 devices. In day-to-day use, it's buttery smooth, no complaints whatsoever. Camera-wise, it has a triple camera on the rear with some serious specifications. The main camera is 50 megapixels and has a 1/1/3 1.13 inch sensor at f1.6. That's equivalent to a 24mm lens. It has a telephoto lens of 200 megapixel. This is a Samsung HP9 with 1/1.4 inch sensor at f2.6. It offers a 3.7 times optical zoom, equivalent to an 85mm lens. It also has SEPA 5.5 stop optical image stabilization, if that means something to you. The ultra wide is another 50 megapixel sensor, this time at f2. It has a 122-degree field of view and a 2.5 centimeter macro mode. The front camera, in the pill shape at the top here, is a 50 megapixel, and this one has 3D time of flight depth sensor for face unlock. So this is actually the only Android phone that I'm aware of that has a similar facility to the Apple iPhone. So the depth of field sensor doesn't just measure your face, it measures the depth of the different features on your face. That makes this a more secure face unlock. The telephoto is the standout, and the hardware is genuinely impressive. However, this is where things get a little bit disappointing. CNET's Andrew Langson tested 3 separate units of the same phone just to make sure they weren't getting one dodgy unit. They tested 3 of them. They found that the hardware inside the phone, the cameras, is amazing. Fantastic hardware, but the software, the image processing, tended to ruin the results. So some of the key issues for the reviewers were, they said there was heavy noise reduction plus aggressive sharpening that created a kind of oil painting effect on the screen, on the pictures you took. Some overbrightened shadows that kind of kill the mood and the drama of the phone, and some of the colors, especially at night, were oversaturated, and there were a few instances of hazy halos around the high contrast edges. The ultra wide was apparently the weakest of the lenses. It resulted in fairly soft details, narrow dynamic range, and some crushed shadows. There were a few weird square color patches in night shots that suggested maybe poor processing. But here's the thing. When you just shoot in RAW, you do raw DNG files, they're fabulous. Take them out, edit them in Lightroom, and the results are genuinely impressive. So the guide is really, at the moment, maybe bypass Honor's onboard processing, shoot your photographs in RAW, and then edit them afterwards on your computer. Then you will get impressive results. Now, I have used the phone for several weeks. I take photos. I am not a photo nut. I'm not somebody who's very impressed or very impressive with photos, taking their photos. I just snap scenes where I live, along the beachfront, when we go away, family and friends. I share them with my wife, with my friends. I might post them occasionally on Facebook or somewhere like that. I haven't had any problem with the photos and the photos I get, but maybe I'm just not that discerning. People who are may not find it's very good at the moment. The CNET conclusion was, you have a great camera in this phone. Please stop ruining it with the software, Honor. So hopefully Honor will update that software. Honor have actually released a professional imaging kit made by Telsin. It costs around 500 Australian dollars here. It has a magnetic case with a 67mm filter thread and a 2.35 telephoto extender, and that brings the built-in 85mm lens up to a 200mm effective equivalent. The magnetic Bluetooth grip also has a 2-stage shutter. It has a zoom lever, control dial, and a 1/4-inch tripod mount. Firmware update boosted the optical image stabilization from SEPA 5.5 to 6.5 stops, plus new AI Mage color engine. This kind of update to the software and the release of the hardware signals that Honor knows the camera needs some improvement. More software updates should follow, and providing they do, you are going to have one of the best Android phones in the world. As I said, this is the global version. It contains a 7,100 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery. This is 4th gen silicon carbon tech. Unfortunately, if you live in the EU, you're only going to get 6,270 milliamp hours. That's to do with the battery size capacity they allow in the EU. In China, and this the global version that I get in Australia, it has 7,200 milliamp hours. The phone supports 100 watts wired charging. That should give you 0 to full in around about 48 minutes. It supports 80-watt wireless charging, providing you have one of their proprietary chargers. It does not support Qi 2. It has to be one of their proprietary chargers. The battery life is decent, but not exceptional given the capacity. I've found this lasts generally roughly what I experienced when I had the Galaxy S25 Ultra about this time last year. You get a full day's use out of it without any problems, and well into a second day if you're not doing too much on it. Honor claims that the power management inside the phone has resulted in a 13% improvement in battery life over last year's Magic 7 Pro. Comes with Android 16 with Honor's own MagicOS 10 on top of that. It's their new transparent UI design, very reminiscent of Apple's liquid glass from iOS 26. It has a dedicated AI button, as I've mentioned, and that can do various things like launching the camera. It can do zoom once you've got the camera open. You can program it to do Google Lens, circle to search, or an AI agent. Very effective. And like a lot of these, they can be a bit annoying if you accidentally press them, but they do have a setting in the software to allow you to slow down that detection of it. They also have a built-in Magic Portal. This supplies contextual drag and drop. So you can take a photo of someone, you can save it and then drag it somewhere else. It has AI writing, translation, call translation, deepfake detection. A lot of this is built on top of Gemini, Google's Gemini. The phone comes with 7 years of software and security updates, so it's good through to 2033. And that is matching Apple, matching Samsung, so matching the very top phones for backup. It also includes 3 months free Google AI Pro, Gemini Pro, and that's included when you buy the phone. Now let me show you the phone itself. I'm going to walk you through the user interface and the settings so you can see exactly what it's like to use on a day-to-day basis. So we're looking at the front screen of the Honor Magic 8 Pro. Typical Android screen. If we swipe down from the left-hand side, we get our notification shade with any notifications we might need to access. And on the right-hand side, if we swipe down, we get our quick settings tiles. In common with lots of Android phones, if you want to, you can modify this. You can add additional tiles, you can move tiles around, you can also resize them. So as you can see here, we can add a tile if we want. And there are several to select, or a lot to select in fact. If we swipe down from the top though, this is the look, and it is very Apple iPhone-like. It looks very much like iOS 26 at first glance. If we go into the main settings themselves, and if we start at the top, we've got our Wi-Fi settings, straightforward. We have Bluetooth to connect to other devices, mobile network settings, SIM management, and the device has 2 physical SIM cards that can be installed, and you can also go with 1 physical SIM and 1 eSIM. On a Connect, this allows you to connect to other devices, and they've put the stuff in here that actually allows you to connect to iPhones and to Apple Macs. I haven't done it myself, so I'm not quite sure how it works, but it does seem to be quite a comprehensive system, and you can connect to external cameras, etc. Honor AI, in common with pretty much every Android phone these days, there's all types of different AI. So we have the Magic sidebar. This allows us to pull out from the side of the screen and quick access to certain apps. And that can be configured. We have Magic Text. So this is where you've got an image of text on a screen and you can tap and select to extract the text from that image. AI subtitles. So this is real-time speech to text. So if you've got a video playing or a call and you can't quite understand what they're saying, you can switch on subtitles. We have AI translate, where we can translate from one language to another. You can choose whether you have a female or a male voice, font size, etc. Call translation, similar, but this is when you're receiving a call and you can have it translated to another language while you're in the call. Again, I'm just switching all this on. As you can see, I've not used it before. The language, the voice, and mute original audio. Probably want to do that so that you're not hearing two voices fighting with each other. We have AI deepfake and voice cloning detection. So this will try and detect whether a call coming in or a message being sent to you is a deep fake and alert you to that. AI writing. So again, this can allow you to polish or rephrase, as it says on the screen, expand, shorten or summarize selected text. There's certain smart interactions. So smart sensing, it is to keep the screen on while viewing. So if I'm looking at something on the screen, it's not going to go and switch it off. Glance reduce ringer volume. So once your phone is ringing, if you pick it up and glance at the screen, it starts to reduce the noise and show the AOD or standby when looking at the screen. So when the screen's off and to one side, if you glance at the screen, it sees you're glancing, it'll put the AOD screen on. Various air gestures, as it shows here, you can do air scrolling. You can grab a shot and air back. So you go back to the previous screen by turning your palm over. And you can disable these automatically if you're conserving battery life. And finally, eye tracking. So this will calibrate your eyes and it will expand notifications. If it sees you looking at it, it has a reduced notification, it then opens it up on the screen when it notices you're looking at it. I won't do this now because it needs to be calibrated and I haven't done that yet. I think like many people, whilst I appreciate a lot of the AI that is on the phone, I don't use a lot of it most of the time. I tend to use, I will load an app onto the phone, like I have the Gemini app and I have the Perplexity app, and I tend to use those rather than the built-in AI in the phone. Perhaps I'm missing out on things. Maybe I should look at them in more detail. So that was all Honor AI. Then we got some more interesting stuff, I think. We've got the home screen and style. So you can see the current style, and if I'd loaded any other styles, you could look at those. We have various themes we can choose. Very similar to what Samsung and Apple do. Always on display. I use the always on display. You can have the full screen, but I like the partial. It just gives you a smaller and mainly black. You can put various images and configure that to your liking. Magic Pictorial. So this will show pictorial on carousel on lock screen. As you can tell, I haven't used this, so I don't know exactly what it does. I think, okay. So on the lock screen, it will cycle through a carousel of images, and you can set your carousel images to be different screens. You can put custom images and how often it updates. So I'm going to turn that off because I don't particularly want that. You you can choose your fonts. I'll leave it on the default. Icon shapes. So I've just got the normal ones, but you can load more icons if you wish. The standby screen, and what shows this is when you put it in landscape portrait, so it becomes like a bedside clock. You can create your own 3D avatar. As you can see, the one on the screen is supposed to be me. I can't say it particularly looks like me, but I did at least try. Back out of that if we can. Exit. Home screen settings. The beauty of this, the transparency, like it's copied Apple's iOS 26 with the sort of the transparent look of the screen icons, but at least with this, as opposed to the iPhone, you can actually adjust the transparency level you have. So if I switch on transparency mode, I can make it more or less transparent depending on what I like. I can change the screen layout. I've got it on 5x6 icons because I like to get more on the screen. Lock the layout, so once you've got everything where you want it and you don't want it moving around, you could lock it if you wish. Auto align, so this will automatically fill empty spaces. This is what happens on the iPhone when you drop a new application icon on the screen. It tends to move everything around to keep everything in place. Personally, I don't like that. I like to be able to place them where I want. You can hide the app names. I think I will switch that off. I think what should happen now is, yes, the application icon names have gone. So go back into that and switch that off. We should have the icon names underneath. Hide the dock background or show the dock background. At the moment, I've got it hidden so that when you go up, there's no background behind the icons. But if you want to, you can switch that on, and then your dock has a bit of a frame around it. You can switch on the Google Discover feed on the left-hand side, and you can remove the search bar on the home screen or add it. I'll leave it on. That's this bit here, the search bar, and the Google Discover feed is the bit off to the left, which gives you sort of breaking news and quite a lot of advertising as well, to be fair. You can also sweep to the other side, and add more applications if you wish. Go back into settings. Back, so that was the home screen. Settings. So there we were looking at home screen and style. Then we have display and brightness. I have it set in dark mode, as you can see. You can have it auto switch at certain times of day. And we have additional dark mode settings, so it darkens the wallpaper when you're in dark mode. Brightness, as I said, very bright display this. I don't put on automatic because I've never quite liked the way the phones choose what level to use. I prefer to choose it myself. And it's quite easy to choose anyway when you're in the home screen. You can pull down at any time and you can adjust the setting here. Font settings. So this can be the font you use, the size of it, how bold and bright the actual icons show, the boldness of the font under the icon displays. That's quite unique. I don't see that on many other phones. Display size, so you can show more or less on the screen, depending on what you like, or what your eyes are like. Color mode and temperature. So I've got it on vivid, but you can have it professional, normal, whichever you prefer is your preference. Advanced settings, you can actually balance the RGB settings and the hue for the screen. Something I tend to keep away from because it's the kind of thing I'd probably mess up. Ebook mode basically puts it into, as it says, your screen color will be changed. Do you want to enable it? So I'm going to say enable. And we've basically gone into a grey shade mode, a bit like an ebook. So might be better on your eyes, I guess. Turn that off. You can have the device sleep at a certain time. I've put it to 1 hour just because I'm doing this video. Normally I'd have it for less than that. Screen resolution, I've set it to high. You can lower it if you want to save battery power. And the refresh rate, I've got it high, up to 120 Hz for smooth visuals. Video enhancer, so I've switched all these on. So super dynamic display enhances HD video, and vivid display optimizes video clarity and color for AI. Certain apps are supported and some aren't. Mainly video apps. And even more display settings, so full screen display. So certain apps sometimes don't fill up the screen, and you can configure it so they do. The notch display, so like the iPhone, this has a notch at the top rather than just a circular cutout, and various apps can use that notch to give you information when information comes in, like notifications. So that was display and brightness. This is the Honor Eye Comfort display. I don't particularly use this, but you can. As mentioned before, it's got circadian night display, so it will intelligently adjust the color temperature at night time. So if you're browsing your phone just before you go to bed, it gets rid of the blue light and gives you hopefully a better chance of getting to sleep. Defocus eye care, what that does is it sees where you're looking on the screen and slightly defocuses things around the edges of where you're not particularly looking. The idea is to try and relieve eye strain. Adjust the screen color, natural tone, according to ambient light. So that just gives you more or less blue or yellow light. Filter blue light from the screen, and dimming mode. We have choices. I use the classic mode, but it does do that extra high one. So if you're somebody who suffers from the flicker, the pulsing in DC dimming, you can switch this on, and that should help. Sound and haptics. Different sound modes. So obviously we have sound, vibration or silent, do not disturb, and you can individually adjust the volume of ringtones, notifications and alarms. You can set what the default volume buttons do, media or ringtone. You can change obviously your ringtones and things like that. Sound quality and effects. This allows you to connect to other devices as well, and it gives you premium bass, 3D surround sound, and you can switch settings for your headphones. I'm going to leave it on 3D surround sound. So that's sound and haptics. Notifications, the status bar. So the notch at the top of the screen, they call it the Magic Capsule. This is the bit of the thing, and it will basically expand. So if you're doing things like, as it shows on the screen here, if you're doing screen recording, face recognition, recording, media playback, etc., then you're going to get information in the top screen. You can choose whether these show on the lock screen or not. I've got them hidden. You can choose to block banners by swiping up on the screen. And then you can choose whether individual apps can use that notification bar at the top if they get notifications in. At the moment, I've just left everything switched on. So if I get a notification and the app supports it, it should appear in that Magic Capsule. Biometrics, so we've got fingerprint ID and we've got face recognition. The face recognition is superb. It's the best I've seen outside the Apple iPhone. So you can manage your different apps. So at the moment, all my apps are managed automatically, but you can choose to manage apps individually. So you can have an app that will auto-launch, so it will start up when the phone starts. It may be a secondary launch or one that keeps running in the background. So you can choose to do this manually for every app, or you can let the system automatically decide what each app should do. And that's what I've left it at. permission, default apps, so you can choose what your default browser is, your default phone call, your default message app. Game manager, I've got this switched off. It basically means that when you're running a game, you have a slide out screen from the left hand side, which gives you various settings for inside games. So App Twin, interesting. So this allows you to log into supported apps with two different accounts. So the one it shows here are Facebook and Messenger. So you could have two Facebook accounts or two Messenger accounts on the same phone. Assistant. So this is the built-in Google Assistant on this phone using Gemini. And individual app settings here. Battery, as you can see here, my phone is on 96% and it says I've got 28 hours 37 minutes remaining. Obviously that's going to depend very much on what I'm doing and how I'm using the phone, but I've found the phone to be, the battery life to be very good, although perhaps should be even better with a 7,100 milliamp hour battery. It tells us here that the silicon carbon content of the battery has increased to 15%, which gives better energy density and longer lasting battery life, according to Honor. Storage, I have 1 terabyte, 1024 gigabytes. And as you can see, I'm hardly touching that at the moment. You have a facility to clean up your storage. Emergency SOS, you can set up emergency contacts and people who can call you during an SAS or automatically send an SOS. You can record medical information on the phone. And you can decide who your emergency contacts are. Location, so use the location, but you can choose to only allow it for certain apps like any other Android phone. This is the bit I never look at, but we'll just open it. Digital well-being and parental controls. I don't think my parents will be that concerned. Accessibility features, lots of this stuff can be useful, particularly if somebody needs those settings. Users and account, so I'm the current user and you can add more than one account on the phone. Google settings. Systems and updates. I should be up to date. I've just updated it today. So yes, we're on the current version. System navigation helps explain, and you can choose between gestures or using the 3 keys at the bottom of the screen. I prefer the gestures. Developer options. Simple mode, this is where you can reduce the amount of choices in your interface if you prefer to keep it simple, maybe for a child or something like that. Ride mode. This is when you're riding, I think when you're riding on a scooter or a bike, and how the system will respond to you. And the rest of it is fairly straightforward. So I'm going to go out there, go back here. And one of the things I have noticed, my version is the global version and I'm using it in Australia. I have found out that my region is not supported. So some of the AI features on the phone will not work in my region. All the standard sort of Google Gemini stuff works. It's this AI space. This doesn't work. And I think this is an area where you can take screenshots and it saves it into a separate area, a bit like the Pixel phones have this separate screenshot area. Doesn't really bother me because it's not something I use. You have your own My Honor account, so you need to log in to set that up, and I've not bothered. And that's it in a nutshell. Having had a look at the phone, let's just finish off the specifications. Audio wise, it has dual 1216 speakers with 8 cubic centimeter sound chamber. Honor Sound AI spatial audio. It gives rich, loud, detailed sound, good as any other phone in this bracket. Biometric wise, it has the aforementioned 3D TOF face unlock plus a 3D ultrasonic fingerprint reader. Both of them very fast, very reliable, had no issues whatsoever. Connectivity wise, it comes with Honor Connect, and that provides file transfer between iPhones and Macs. The phone has eSIM and broad 5G support. This is the first phone with SGS Gold Label AI phone certification. So let's look at the pros and cons. On the pros, it's got the brightest display ever tested. It has a class-leading Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor inside it. It has that 200 megapixel telephoto hardware, a 7,100 milliamp hour battery in the global version, 100 watt wired and 80 watt wireless charging, comes with 7 years of software support. It has a premium build and it's IP69K, up to IP69K water and dust resistant, excellent audio, and here in Australia it's good value at $1,600, particularly if you compare that to the price of an equivalent Samsung or Apple phone, which will be well over $2,000. And if you went with the 1 terabyte version of either Samsung or Apple, you're actually approaching $3,000. On the con side, the camera software is just too aggressive for a lot of people. Hopefully it's something they can update. It does over sharpening and introduces some artifacts in images. And the ultra wide lens itself is the weakest of the 3 lenses on the back. The battery life is good, but average for the capacity at 7,100 milliamp hours. I'd hope for a little bit longer. And no Qi 2 wireless charging, no magnetic on the back for putting on stands and things like that. Now, for some people, MagicOS can feel a bit derivative, a bit copying Apple. Personally, it doesn't bother me. I actually like the OS and I think it works very well. And let's be fair, Apple do design generally good software, and so copying them isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the beauty is it's a bit configurable. You can change some of these things anyway. The verdict is that the Honor Magic 8 Pro is a bit of a phone of contradictions. Hardware is genuinely flagship tier. It has the fastest available Android processor, the brightest display, and that amazing 200 megapixel telephoto powerhouse. It has a massive battery. It's just the camera software that holds it back from being the very top tier. Multiple reviewers have confirmed that the image processing is too aggressive. Over-sharpened details, over-brightened shadows, over-saturated colors. The raw files prove that the hardware can deliver. Honor just needs to get out of its own way. Honor just needs to get out of its own way. If Honor fixes the software, this could be the best phone of 2026. Thank you for watching. Please remember, I buy every device with my own money and I use it for weeks before sharing my opinion. No sponsors, no freebies, just a normal user's perspective. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think about the Honor Magic 8 Pro. If you've bought one and are using it, have you experienced any of the reported camera issues?